Hi everyone, I hope you had a lovely Easter break and hopefully you're ready to be starting back doing some more work. Today we're going to be doing some more literacy and I thought we'd start off with a grammar starter. So, I have 4 types of sentence here. A command, a question, a statement or an exclamation. Just have a think to yourself now, can you remember what those 4 types of sentence actually mean? What would a sentence look like if it was an exclamation? What would a question look like? What punctuation might it need? What would a statement need? And how is a command different from all the others? Once you've had a think, I'm going to reveal some sentences to you and you're going to see if you can work out what type of sentence it is. So let's do the first one together. The first one says, Mr. Twit was an awfully smelly man. Is that a question? It can't be a question because it's not asking anything. Is it a command? Well, it can't be a command because it's not telling anybody to do something, and that's what commands are. They're orders, they're instructions. You have to do this one thing. So this sentence is a statement. It just tells you a fact about Mr. Twit. Mr. Twit was an awfully smelly man. That's a fact, so that's a statement. Let's look at the next one. How ridiculous that is. I think something in this sentence gives away what type of sentence it is. If you look at the last bit, there's an exclamation mark. That shows me straight away that it can't just be a statement, it's not just something you're saying. It can't be a question because it's not asking something. So it's either going to be a command or an exclamation. Is that sentence ordering you to do something? No, it's not. In which case it's got to be an exclamation. If your sentence starts with the word how, it's normally either going to be an exclamation or a question. And you need to consider, is it asking something? If it is, it's a question. If not, it's probably an exclamation. Let's look at the next 2. Clean up that mess, please. And where does Mr. Twit live? Have a think about what those 2 types of sentences might be. This third one, clean up that mess, please, is a command. Commands are ordering you to do things. They don't have to be rude. You can use the word please to command somebody to do something. Clean up that mess, please, is ordering somebody to do it, but it's also being polite at the same time. And finally, where does Mr. Twit live? Well, that gives it away. The question mark at the end tells me that it's a question, tells me that it's asking something. So that one's got to be a question. I wonder, if you wanted to challenge yourself, you could pause the video now and see if you can write a command, a question, a statement and an exclamation of your own. Let's move on to the main part of today's lesson. Today, we're going to be seeing if we can use adjectives and expanded noun phrases to describe. We've looked at expanded noun phrases in the past in school. Expanded noun phrases is where you use either more than one adjective to describe, or you can use the word with to add an extra little bit of detail about it. So to be successful today, we're going to see if we can use adjectives to describe, then we're going to see if we can use those to create an expanded noun phrase, and to challenge ourselves, we're going to see if we can write simple and compound descriptive sentences, and then see if we can write complex descriptive sentences, where we use complex subordinating conjunctions. So here are 2 characters from a book. The book is called The Twits, and we heard about those in the starter. Mr. Twit is this man here, and Mrs. Twit is his wife. I'd like to pause the video now and see if you can think of any words that you would use to describe these characters just from your first impression of what they look like. Maybe you could think about what they look like, maybe how they might sound, how they might smell. I can see there's flies flying all around them, so I can imagine how they smell. Pause the video now and see how many adjectives you can think of. Here's some adjectives that I came up with myself. So I've described them as ugly, disgusting, vile, that's one of my favourite words because it's such a short word, easy to spell, but it's got such a lovely effect to it. Stinky, nasty, sneaky, devious, rude, fat and smelly. All of those words can be used to describe these 2 characters, just from my first impression of them, even before I know anything about them. I wonder, how could we make an expanded noun phrase using more than one of these adjectives? Well, what we could do is we could take 2 of those adjectives and put it into a small phrase. So I could say, Mr. Twit has an ugly, stinky beard. Mrs. Twit has a fat, sneaky face. So I'm thinking about more than one adjective. Fat, sneaky face makes it an expanded noun phrase. Ugly, stinky beard makes it an expanded noun phrase. I wonder if we can have a go at writing a sentence now. Now that we've come up with some adjectives, now that I've thought about an expanded noun phrase, can I put it into a simple sentence, or maybe I could use a conjunction to add that extra bit more detail? Let's see. I'm going to take the idea of Mr. Twit's beard, and I'm going to take stinky, because definitely looking at it, it looks like it's got food in it. Must be really stinky. And I think it's also quite disgusting, so I'm going to use that word as well. So, for my sentence, Mr. Twit has a disgusting, stinky beard. So that could be my simple sentence. I've got two adjectives to describe Mr. Twit, but I haven't really explained in any more detail using a conjunction. Maybe that could be my next step for sentence number 2. This time I'm going to describe Mrs. Twit. So I'm going to describe Mrs. Twit's face, which I've been looking at it, it's pretty ugly, and she looks like she's got a nasty streak. Her eyebrows are sort of pointed down to make her look nasty. So I can say, sentence number 2, Mrs. Twit's eyebrows look nasty because, and then I'm going to explain why, they are pointing down. She looks like she might have a devious plan, which, there's another conjunction there I can use, which might end up causing mischief. So, in those two sentences that I've written, I've used some really lovely adjectives: disgusting, stinky, nasty, devious, which means like plotting, and causing mischief. I think that's quite a nice little phrase there. Rather than just saying causing trouble, I think mischief is a really lovely word, so I've decided to use that one. I've also used some conjunctions. I used because, which is one of my favourite words, and which, to add a little bit more detail there. So straight away, just by coming up with my adjectives, I can create an expanded noun phrase, and then once I've got that, I can put it into a sentence and even challenge myself to use conjunctions. So your task today, I'm going to see if you can list 10 adjectives to describe Mr. and Mrs. Twit. Bearing in mind, you don't really know anything about them. All you're doing is looking at the picture and deciding from your first impression what they might be like. Then I'd like you to see if you can use those adjectives to write some descriptive sentences. I only wrote 2 sentences. I'm sure you could challenge yourself to write more. Remember, to use conjunctions in your sentences to link and extend your ideas. Don't just write simple sentences like Mr. Twit is smelly, Mr. Twit is evil, Mr. Twit is disgusting, because all of those words are great, but they're very basic sentences, and I'm sure you can do better than that. And maybe you could challenge yourself today to use some expanded noun phrases to interest the reader. When you finish your sentences, come back to this video so you can do your self-assessment. Okay, so today, our challenge was to describe a character. To be successful in today's lesson, we need to do these things. So if you haven't done them, or if you need to practice them a bit more, they could be your next step. To use adjectives to describe, to use an expanded noun phrase to describe, to use a range of coordinating conjunctions such as and, but, and or to use a range of subordinating conjunctions such as so, if, when, because, which. There are others as well, of course. The P and the E is for your presentation and for your effort. So how hard have you tried in today's lesson? Do you deserve 1, 2 or 3 ticks? And how has your presentation been? I really hope that you've got high levels of standards of your presentation still, even though we're off school. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a little bit of handwriting, so hopefully you can practice that tomorrow to make sure that your writing tomorrow is even better. I hope that you enjoyed today's lesson, and I really look forward to seeing some of your sentences maybe on DB Primary.